Unit 10 is about sustainable logistics and supply chain systems. So in this chapter, we're trying to consider the logistics and supply chain management in different aspects. We try to look at these issues from the environment protection perspective. In previous units, we have learned all the details of effective and efficient logistics operations and the supply chain management. For example, we know how to do the procurement, right? How to do the inventory management, how to do the warehousing management. And also, we know how to choose different modes of transport, either choose a single mode or use the combination of different transport modes. Okay, we already know all these details. Also, we mentioned about the information flows, right? And we know we should have sound information system to help run the logistics activities smoothly. But of course, all these activities, if they are run effectively and efficiently, of course, we will have very high percentage. We are very sure that the company is going to be successful in terms of economics, okay, in terms of making money. But in this unit, okay, we will try to look at the problems beyond this economic perspective. We try to consider the issue of sustainability. Okay, this is a big issue. Okay, nowadays more and more people are very environment concerned. Right, we like to prevent the Earth from being damaged very seriously or too fast. Of course, we know that this is unavoidable when we developed the economics, right? But still, we can do something. Okay, especially if we are logisticians, we consider our logistics management decisions. Actually, we can try to do something, and these decisions may be helpful or maybe good to the environment. So in this unit, we will try to talk about the sustainability, especially when this issue applies to logistics and supply chain management. Okay. Of course, we will focus on the issue of the economic sustainability. We hear very often that people talking about green, right? But green issues is not the entire story of the sustainability, okay? Although it is a part of it, okay? But here we try to focus on just economic sustainability, because we can look at sustainability from different angles. Here we especially focus on economic aspect. Okay, so of course we like to see how a firm can survive and grow at the same time, do not hurt the environment, like the slide mentioned. We like to see a firm survive and grow in a sustainable manner, sustainable way, without having too much adverse impacts on the future generations, on our future offspring. Here, of course, we're going to look at how logistics and supply chain management can play this kind of role. Okay, so there I will mention with several strategies. And one of these strategies is to design the logistic activities or design the supply chain management. Okay. In this unit, a more and more important issue, reverse logistics, will also be covered. Okay. Reverse logistics, of course, is the flows from downstream, okay, to upstream. Okay, this is just a totally different direction, right? Typically, we have materials from upstream and become work in process sub-assemblies, and then finished products, and then transported or moved to the downstream locations like distribution centers or retailer stores. Okay, but the reverse logistics, the direction just in a different way. Okay, because now we like to collect all those end-of-life products. We don't like to see these products are thrown away and do not taken care very carefully. Usually will hurt the environment. Right? So reverse logistics usually involve these activities like return of end of products and of course return of the packaging of the goods, okay, like boxes, etc. And also sometimes consumers may have their goods or products not work properly, okay, and they need to be repaired. So these defective or items that are eventually not sold, okay, need to be taken care of, need to be carefully handled, right? So basically these items, okay, either end of the life products or the damaged products need to be repaired, need to be moved back from the end consumers up to maybe distribution centers or even the manufacturers, okay, so that they can repair these items or they can reuse some the material or components of these items. So these will be activities in the reverse logistics. Okay. It is getting more and more important, but it is not an easy task. Okay, not so easy because whenever the supply chain are designed in the forward direction, not very frequently you have items need to be moved just the reverse direction. So usually we will have some difficulties unless we have very good design before we collect all these items back. Okay, so this will be not be exactly the same as the forward direction arrangement. Okay. Later on, I will mention the idea about reverse logistics in details. In summary, this unit we will first discuss sustainability, and then we try to explain some primary terms like a carbon footprint. Okay, maybe you already heard about these terms, right? Or foot miles, reverse logistics, just mentioned. Okay, we try to first explain the meaning of these terms, and then we will some examples, a few very famous examples, okay, of the efforts at reducing the environmental footprints, how those firms have made efforts on reducing the footprints. We will also mention an unavoidable link between economic growth and transport growth. Okay, better economics, more economic activities. Of course, unavoidably, you need more transport. Okay, that's very reasonable. Okay, of course, I'll give you an example that nowadays some Western nations, they try to decouple these two things. Okay, try to continue develop economics while at the same time slow down the increase in the transport requirement. Okay, I mentioned at the design stage. I mean, in the beginning, we design a supply chain. Okay, that's the best timing that we can have contributions on the environmental protection, right? But still, we have two other strategies or other dimensions we can consider. Okay? One is scale, the other is efficiency. That means try to increase the scale of transport vehicles or transport vessels and so on. And also the other is the efficiency. Okay? Try to use those equipment or people more efficiently. Okay? That means we use less inputs to generate the same or more outputs. Okay? So that we can claimed efficiency. Okay, so we will also mention this scale and efficiency later on in this unit. Through increasing the scale and enhance efficiency, we can reduce the environmental impacts. Okay, and of course we will have one section to talk about reverse logistics. Okay, so let's move on to the first section. Okay, the green revolution and supply chain design. Okay, the green revolution. I think you all know already heard this term. And first of all, let's try to distinguish or describe these terms. Okay, and all are related to the sustainability. Okay, so maybe we talk about sustainability first. The definition. Okay, sustainability is try to do something, take some actions, so that we can protect our earth, our environment. Okay, usually, when we make proper decision or we take proper actions, our future generations will still have very good living environment. Okay, so sustainability is kind of thinking about the future. We try to make sure that all the decisions made today will have a positive impact on the living or the environment of the future generations. Okay, so this is a very serious issue. Okay, sustainable logistics means when we implement these logistics operations, we have sustainability in mind. Okay, that means we try to reduce the environmental and all other disbenefits, associated with the movement of freight or associated with the activities of those different kind of logistics operations. Okay, so when we have this thinking in mind, then our decisions, maybe say determining which kind of transport modes to use. You would very carefully choose the modes, the transport modes. Maybe previous time you used the road transport very often, but once you have this kind of thinking, maybe you say, I try to reduce the use of road transport. You try to switch to other kind of modes which are more environmentally friendly. For example, maybe we can use sea shipping, right? Sea transport mode or railway mode. Maybe we can also consider replace our trucks with more advanced hybrid fuel, right? Hybrid fuel. Then by doing so, we can save the gasoline. Right? We can reduce the usage of the gasoline. Okay, so all these are doable. Okay, all these are doable, and if you are the one that have these sustainability thinking in mind, then you will make these very positive decisions. Okay. Also, when we consider the entire supply chain, we like to have a sustainable supply chain. That means not just the logistic operations, but also other things related to the supply chain. Between the partners, we also like to see we can reduce those disbenefits. Try to do something that can help to protect the environment. So sustainable supply chains try to reduce all these kind of disbenefits through redesign the sourcing and distribution system. So that is very important. Redesign the sourcing and distribution systems. As I mentioned, this is in the very beginning, at the design stage. You can do something. Of course, maybe you are in a firm that already has a supply chain, right? Previous time, then people already established this system. But still, we can consider to redesign, to do some reconfiguration. Okay, maybe you can still use the original same system. Okay, except we try to make some changes. Okay, in the configuration, reduce the use of some kind of transport modes and so on. Right. Also, we can consider to produce or manufacture goods nearby the markets, nearby the end markets. Right? In this way, then we can reduce the traveling distances of the goods. Right? So we try to avoid unnecessary flight movement or inefficient flight movement. Okay? Especially very often we see that not very high value products are moved from this continent to other continents. So very long distance traveling, for example, from Asia to Western Europe or to United States. Okay, but these items are of very low value, so it's not necessary. Okay, maybe we can just produce nearby the markets. We can have some production base in a nation very close to Western Europe, and we have other production bases very close to the markets in Asia or in other continents. Okay. In this way, then we can make sure that the inefficiency or unnecessary flight movement can be reduced or even eliminated. So this is sustainable supply chains. That means when we try to do something good to the environment, unavoidably, we have to redesign the supply chain system. As I mentioned, green issues gradually are getting more and more important. Okay. These green issues involve very basic respect for the global natural environment, for the world, and to ensure that the actions taken today will not hinder the future generations. In the past 20th century, we know the development of economic activities in different nations. Okay. But we also notice that people do not really pay attention to the environment protection issues. So there are some very serious concerns about the environment nowadays are raised by the different governments or different interest groups. Okay, so nowadays either the government's level or the interest groups nowadays they urge for the natural environment protection. Okay, so the reason, of course, we can realize that why people nowadays pay attention to these green issues. Some may be required by law because the government want to do something. They know that the problem is very serious. They try to use laws to restrict or regulate some actions. Okay. Also, the companies have the cost pressure. Okay. They like to reduce cost further so that they can compete with their competitors. Okay. For example, in previous time, they used a lot of unnecessary packaging. Okay. Now they can consider to reduce, okay, simplify the packaging so that they can reduce the cost. Okay. So cost reduction. This is also a pressure that most firms face. Social responsibility. Okay. That's the environmental impact. Okay. The factories or companies, okay, their production activities or the logistic operation activities have some byproducts. For example, the carbon emissions hurt the environment. Okay, but the interest groups, some foundations, okay, some people try to give the pressures to these firms, okay, urge them to do some improvement. Okay, so the firms, the factories, also face this kind of pressure, so they have to also consider social responsibility, right? They make money, but still they need to also do something good to the society. Okay, so the social responsibility pressure. And last reason is the market pressure. More and more consumers are getting aware of the importance of the environment protection, right? They gradually have the concern, the awareness of the good environment need to be maintained. So they give the firms pressures, right? They like to see, okay, if the firm is manufacturing and distributing the products in a very environmentally friendly way, okay? If, okay, the consumers realize that certain firm, okay, some company do not do improvements to reduce the hurt, reduce the impact on the environment, they tend not to buy their products. So the companies are facing the market pressure. Okay, all these are the reasons behind the phenomenon, the green issues. Okay, the very important concern is about the use of fossil fuels for the power generation. Right, every day we drive cars. Okay, or the factory use these fossil fuels to produce their products and so on, right? But whenever we use the fossil fuels, the byproducts, okay, will be the carbon emissions. Okay, the carbon emissions really hurt our Earth, right? Hurt our health and also hurt the atmosphere. Okay, and so the International Kyoto Protocol several years ago has called for a reduction in carbon emission by 60% within 50 years, before 2050. Okay. Of course, some people are not so optimistic about this goal, but still, we can see some large or famous companies, they are making efforts to reduce the carbon emissions. We will have an example. Okay. So this is the famous Kyoto Protocol. You know this, right? Our meeting held several years ago in Japan. We just mentioned carbon emission. Okay, then here we can define the carbon footprint. Okay, the carbon footprint means the environmental disbenefits associated with the economic activities such as the movement of flight, right? Because you use the vehicles, use the vessels, then of course you generate the carbon footprint. Okay, some transport mode generate much more carbon emission than other modes. So, as I just mentioned, we can consider when we are making the decisions to reduce the transport modes, we try to use the modes that will hurt the environment less. It's very logical thinking that imported goods have a larger carbon footprint because they are moved from a distant place, right? So they have to travel a longer distance than locally produced goods. Okay. Some people argue that we shouldn't buy the imported goods because they have larger carbon footprint. However, if locally produced goods that are manufactured or distributed in an environmental damage manner, do we still want to buy these locally produced goods? Okay, this may be even worse than buy the imported goods which are manufactured in a more environmentally friendly manner. Okay, so even we try to urge people to use more locally produced goods, locally produced agricultural goods or industrial goods, we still need to ask these local producers, local firms to really doing these production activities or distribution activities in the right manner. That means in an environmentally friendly manner. It is hard to tell which one is better. I mean, buying imported goods or buying locally produced goods. Okay, basically, if both are manufactured in a very environmentally friendly manner, of course, you would like to choose locally produced ones. Right? And the second term, the foot miles, okay, foot miles, meaning is the traveling distance of all the ingredients, all the components of a particular food item. Okay, here we especially focus on food product, food item. Okay, before the final consumption, before they finally reach the final consumers. Okay, all the different components of these food items need to be traveled. They need to be moved the total distance. Okay. Nowadays, we see more and more producers disclose this information. Okay, on their packaging and their package labels. Okay, so you can see the package labels tell us the different ingredients produced from which nation or which cities and so on. So now you know, according to this information, you know, we know not these particular food item as a larger or smaller food miles. Okay. So of course we prefer the food item with less food miles. This is the same meaning that we mentioned, that we try to buy locally produced goods. We try to use all the materials, all the ingredients locally produced to make a food product. Okay. Supply chain redesign. And as I mentioned, when we are in a company, okay, and of course maybe the supply chain already there. Okay, maybe this supply chain was designed for decades, right? Maybe people didn't do anything about this supply chain, right? However, if we try to consider make contributions to the environment, okay, then we need to redesign the supply chain. Okay, maybe we need to discard some equipment or some ways doing things. Okay, so here the principle is we try to making the supply chain green. We hear this term very often, but really it is not easy to measure how green a supply chain is. Right? We don't have a measurement tool. Right? We don't have the standard to measure the green. It is very subjective, subjective judgment. Okay, here we can do things like we try to change the locations of the warehouses, right, or replace the inefficient vehicles or vessels and so on, right. This is of course in the design stage. Okay, in the very beginning, we need to determine the capacity of all these facilities, right. So according to the investigation, over 80% of carbon savings can be done at the beginning stage of the supply chain design. I mentioned several examples, right? Like we can determine proper locations of warehouses, factories, distribution centers, and so on. Also, we can determine the transport modes, right? We can use the combinations of different modes, or we can try to use more efficient modes, right? And try not to use like road transport, right? We can also change the philosophy just in time. Okay, although in previous units I mentioned the just in time, okay, it's very good to the manufacturer because it can reduce the inventory cost, okay, for the manufacturers, because the manufacturer asks its major suppliers establish factories nearby this manufacturer. For example, nearby the Toyota manufacturing factory. But because these suppliers are nearby the factories, so usually factory will ask the supplier to send materials or components to the factory assembly locations. okay, like 1 hour or 2 hours before they use these components, right? So usually the quantities are delivered in very, very small amount. So this is not good because very frequent traffic, very frequent deliveries, okay, from supplier to the factories, from factory back to the suppliers, okay. So generate a lot of carbon emissions. So it is not good. I mean, from the environmental perspective, right? Although it is good to the company like Toyota, okay. So if we try to consider this sustainability, okay, issue, then we need to discard this kind of philosophy. Okay, we don't use the just-in-time management philosophy. Okay, so we can replace the small deliveries to end customers with centralized deliveries to a hub. Okay, for example, okay, in UK, in London, okay, Heathrow Airport has a retail consolidation center nearby the airport. This consolidation center on behalf of all the retailers within the airport, okay, all the stores within the airport, to receive deliveries from suppliers. Okay, different suppliers send their goods to the center, and then from this center can do something, combine the goods from different suppliers for a certain retailer within the airport, right? So in this way, we can reduce huge amount of traffic. Okay. Otherwise, okay, every supplier, okay, send the goods directly to the retailer. Okay. So say we have 10 suppliers, okay, send products to the one of the retailer. Okay, compared to the operations using the consolidation center, we know we can save a lot of traveling or shipping. Okay, so the thinking is we know that more environmentally sustainable. Okay, if we want to be more environmentally sustainable, then the freight must be moved in bulk as far downstream as possible. Okay, so that is the reason why Heathrow Airport established a consolidation center for all the retailers. Basically, there are 3 ways to improve sustainability of the logistics and supply chain management. And the first one we already mentioned, redesign the supply chain. This is the first strategy. And then we have 2 other strategies. The second one is we can using scale to reduce or even eliminate the adverse environmental impacts. The third strategy is we can try to increase efficiency. Okay? We try to provide efficient solutions so that transporting and handling freight can be more effective. For example, we can use less fossil fuels, right? Then we can generate less carbon emissions. Okay? We just mentioned 3 approaches or 3 strategies, okay, to improve the sustainability of the logistics and supply chain management. Okay, redesign the system. Okay, using scale or promoting efficient solutions. Okay, let's first consider this linkage, the link between economic growth and transport growth. Okay, as I mentioned in the beginning, okay, these 2 are unfortunately interrelated. So you have economic growth. At the same time, you have transport growth. You need to use more transport. Okay, you need to have more transport activities. Okay, more requirement on the transport. Okay, then more transport will generate more carbon emissions. Okay, but still we can try to make our best to decouple these 2 phenomena. Okay, so although this is an unavoidable link, but we still can do something, right? So usually, as a decision maker or policy maker, okay, we can try to figure out some way to decouple the economic growth and the transport growth. Okay, that means we can try to let the economic growth continue while at the same time slow down the transport growth. Okay. There's an example in UK. Between 1997 and 2004, within this 7 years, the economic growth measured in terms of GDP, okay, increased by 1/5. Okay, the GDP increased by 1/5. But at the same period, the volume of road freight remains very stable. That means the road freight do not increase proportionately. So the scholars try to investigate the reasons behind this recovery, and they found several possible reasons. The first one is in this period of time, freight is shipping from road to other mode, other more environmentally friendly transport modes. Okay, for example, rail shipping or coastal shipping, the marine transportation. Okay, so that is a good thing. Okay, we use more environmentally friendly transport modes. Okay, that's the first reason. The second one is because the road freight rates increase. Okay, because the road transportation becomes more expensive. Okay. So the companies change their strategies. Okay, either use other transport modes or import goods from other countries. Okay, in this way they don't need to make goods and they don't need to use the road transport a lot. And the third reason is because of the relative growth of the service sector. Okay, we mentioned the GDP. Okay, increased by 1/5, but this amount composed of at least the service sector and the manufacturer sectors. Okay? We know the service sector basically providing services. They involve less or no physical goods at all, right? Sometimes they maybe also need to have some physical goods in the service sector. Some service firms don't need the physical goods at all. Okay, so 1/5 increase in GDP contributed by this sector. Okay, so that's the reason. Okay? Part of the increasing contributed by this sector. That's why the road freight cannot increase accordingly. Okay, the last possible reason is more and more firms using offshoring or outsourcing strategy. Okay, they outsource manufacturing activities to other countries. For example, the outsourced countries in Eastern Europe countries or some countries in Asia. Okay, so these are the possible reasons. Just mentioned. Try to decouple the economic growth and the transport growth. Okay, we can use the similar thinking, right? We can do outsourcing. We can do reconfiguration of the industrial structure of a nation. Okay, now let's move to the second and the third strategy. The scale, okay, logistics and supply chain management. Okay, we know the container vessels, right? The tendency is the container vessels become larger and larger, okay, compared to previous time. Okay, later on we will see example. Okay, a very big container vessel in the world. Okay. Let's look at these figures, these statistics here. Okay, if all the container world were lined up, so the total length will be 108,000 kilometers. It is about 2.7 times, about 3 times, right, around the globe, the globe at the equator. So I give you this number. The length of the equator, okay, around the globe is about 40,000 kilometers. Okay. And this 108,000 kilometers also is about 1/3 of distance from Earth to Moon. So big number of containers in the world. Okay, so why these containers are so popular? Okay, used, okay, by all the countries in the world. Okay, because container can carry a lot of can make use of the vessel capacity because they are like a cubic shape. Okay, they can easily pile up. Okay, in a container vessel. Okay, so the capacity of a ship can be used as much as we can. Okay. So let's look at this figure here. Okay. For a typical 40-foot long container, okay, usually we have two standard sizes of containers. One is 40 feet long, the other is 20 feet long. Okay, this is the longer one. Okay, a 40-foot long container can hold like 200 dishwashers, 350 bicycles, or 5,000 pairs of jeans. Okay, because of this ability, so it reduces the unit shipping cost for these items. Okay? According to the figures estimated by the Maersk Line company. Okay? The freights, okay, these goods are moved from Asia to Europe. Then about 9 pounds per dishwasher, the shipping cost, unit shipping cost. Okay, 5 pounds per bicycle and just 0.35 pound per pair of jeans. Okay, so that's why we see that people improve the container vessel, okay, in terms of scale. Okay, they try to make bigger container vessels. Okay, so nowadays we can say maybe development of container vessels is maybe in the 7th or 8th generations. Okay, so in nowadays, a very big container vessel can hold more than 10,000 units of 20-foot equivalent container. Okay, so we use this unit, okay, TEU means 20-foot equivalent units. Okay, hold about 10,000 TEUs. Okay, this mask. This is the very new generation container vessel. Okay, this is a vessel of the Maersk Line. Okay, we start using this container vessel maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Okay, this is the capacity of this Maersk. Okay, this time, okay, the previous generation usually at the most 6 or 7,000 TEUs. Okay, that's the maximum capacity. Okay, now the next generation, the current generation, easily exceeds the 10,000. This is one of the 5 very big container vessel in the world. Okay, the Maersk. Okay, it's 397.7 meters long and 56.4 meters wide. So it's very big. Okay, in terms of the height, okay, it's about 12-story building, like a very high. Okay. This is a very advanced ship, use a lot of new technology, especially the information technology. So this ship does not need many crews. Okay, they need just a crew of just 13 people can operate this ship. Okay, although the vessel becomes bigger, but we don't need more people to work in this ship. Okay. This vessel can hold a huge amount of goods with different manufacturers or suppliers. However, okay, in this world, okay, there are very limited ports, okay, can handle such a big, ultra large vessels. Okay. So the tendency is, okay, there is a growing traffic concentration at certain other ports, other small or medium-sized ports. Okay, and these small or medium-sized ports play just like a feeder role, okay, to feed very large ports, which can handle the ultra large container vessels. Okay, so you can see a lot of traffic, okay, from these small-sized ports to large ports, back and forth, right? So it make this small medium-sized ports become more prosperous. Okay, they have more and more work to do. Okay, so they make more money than before. Okay, gradually it developed like a hub and spoke networks. Okay, so these very big container vessels, they just go back and forth between these several limited ports. Right, they don't go to the medium-sized or small-sized port. They cannot go there, right? Cannot go because the port cannot host such a big vessel. Okay, so they help the development of these smaller ports. Okay, okay, that's the scale. Okay, we see that more and more the people try to concentrate or consolidate the in large scale, and then ship this large scale of goods to different places. So in this way, we can use less fuels, right, and reduce the traffic. The third that we can use is we try to provide efficiency solutions. Right? For example, we can decrease empty running. Right? For example, we send goods from factories, okay, in southern Taiwan to maybe to Taipei, okay, and then this truck needs to go back to southern Taiwan. Before this truck go back to southern Taiwan, we can find whether or not there are some people or some suppliers to also send their goods to the southern Taiwan. If this truck can find this business, then they will go back, okay, without empty running. So in this way, save money and also get utility of the usage of the gasoline. Okay. So decreasing empty running, it's a popular strategy nowadays. Okay, in Taiwan, we can see a lot of trucks come to Taipei and then they wait in maybe near the Taipei bridge. Okay, and then either using the internet or other systems to see whether or not they can some business to do before they go back to their home city. Maybe they can find some people want to this transport service. Okay, so that's increasing the empty running, and also we can pour the goods, okay, for different suppliers, okay, put them together, right? We can share the capacity of the vehicles, right, with others, okay, pouring and sharing capacity, and consolidate, okay, the goods from different suppliers, right? We can to make fully usage of the capacity of a truck or a transport vehicle, okay? So pouring and sharing capacity. And also, the same thing is, I think these two are interrelated. Okay, try to obtain the back haulage loads. Try to see if other people need the services. Okay. So what we can do is to increase vehicle payload capacity. That means we can use like a double deck. Okay, the truck we can use double deck. Then we can have more spaces to carry goods, right? Or we can use a single tractor unit and we have multiple trailer, okay, 2 or 3 trailer, and at the same time we can carry more goods, okay, more goods. So we can use this strategy also, okay? And also we can make efficient use of the packaging and loading containers. Okay? Again, packaging the goods, arrange the goods in a container so that we can make use of the space, okay, as much as possible. Still, we know that we need to sacrifice some space because of the shapes of the different goods, right? But we try to make the arrangement. We try to reduce this waste. Okay, we try to make make as much as the space as possible. Okay. So this is also one way. Okay. Sometimes we can use a mathematical model to do the calculation for us, right? Say we want to we want to load which item first and then what items, etc. Okay. Sometimes we can do this very precise calculations. Okay. Oftentimes we don't do this, right? We do the arrangement according to our experiences. Okay. Okay. And also we can use GPS. Now, I think this is a very popular device okay, nowadays for the road transport or other transport modes, right? People use the GPS to locate the destination, to plan the shortest route from the factory to the destination. Okay, so GPS can prevent us from losing our ways, right? We can follow the directions of the GPS. Usually, the GPS will give us a shortest route, although you can change the mode, right? So using the GPS, okay, and then improving vehicle driving style, okay, we can maybe apply the pedal not so often, okay, and then we can save the fuel. Okay. So we can train, or we can train our drivers, okay, so that they will have very good and very proper driving habits, driving styles. Okay, and also we can enhance the vehicle operating efficiency. For example, we can switch from the regular vehicles to the hybrid vehicles, right? So in this way, we can then reduce the use of fossil fuels, right? Then we can reduce the carbon emissions. So these are possible ways which can increase the efficiency for using the funds. Okay. Also, there's a phenomenon related to the efficiency, the port-centric logistics. Okay. So nowadays in the world, okay, some ports actively welcome the firms to locate their distribution centers just at the ports, okay, rather than in other inland locations. Okay, for example, in Keelung, okay, the Keelung port, okay, the distribution center is not there, right? It's in between Taipei and Keelung, okay. But maybe we can consider trying to find some cities. Actually, they did that. Okay, they have some distribution centers. Okay, just nearby, just harbor in the harbor. So in this way, okay, then we can reduce the traffic. We don't need to carry the containers from the port to the inland distribution centers. Right? We can just handle the container. Okay, and we can arrange the smaller delivery. We can use the smaller truck to carry the goods. Okay, from the distribution center in the port. Okay, to the retailer stores, to the different customers. Okay, so we can avoid the unnecessary movement from port to the inland location. More and more ports like to welcome the companies to establish their own operation centers there. Okay, but of course, in Keelung, there's not enough lands for this purpose. Okay, because if you have there in Keelung, then you should find that the city is very small. Okay, if you ever been there, Keelung, okay, and you see the port, okay, there, okay, but you see the very limited land area, and then you see a lot of mountains, right? So there are very limited land, yeah, for this purpose. Okay, of course this may not be feasible in Keelung. Okay, however, in Taichung, okay, the Taichung port, okay, that's possible because there much more, many more lanes there in Taichung City. Okay.
Isn't it that they're constructing one near Danshui?
In Danshui. Yes, I think that's better than in Keelung. Yeah, the Taipei port. Yeah, I think there are more spaces for this purpose. Yeah. So traditionally, of course, people tend to use the inland distribution centers. But nowadays, we can just change this kind of thinking. Okay. So benefits is the house. We encourage you to locate your conversion centers there. They can give you very favorable rent. Okay, so you can set land cost. Okay, and also you can avoid some congestions, traffic congestions. Okay, it's a phenomenon. Okay, become gradually popular. Port-centric logistics. Okay, now let's talk about the reverse logistics. This is also getting popular nowadays. Okay. As I mentioned, reverse logistics basically taking care of the goods back from consumers up to distribution centers or even up to the manufacturers along the supply chain in a different direction. Okay, so this could be a return of end-of-life products. Okay, like the batteries or some electronic products. Okay, some computers. Okay, maybe you already purchased a new, and you want to get these old ones away. Right? Nowadays, okay, these manufacturers try to collect these end-of-life products back, okay, so that they can reuse some components, okay, some parts or some materials. Okay, so return of life products or return of defective or damaged products, so that they can repair these items for consumers. Okay, all those items that are not sold eventually, unwanted. And also the return of the packaging, the boxes, etc. Okay. Recovery of returnable equipment, okay, such as containers. Right? We have a lot of containers in the container distribution centers or seaport. Right? But these, whenever the items are moved out from the container, then this empty container must go somewhere, right? So some other places need these containers. Okay, then people will just move these containers to there. Okay, so it could be containers or some pallets, right, or some barrels. These things can hold products, can hold goods. Okay, so once we have this reverse logistics in our supply chain, then we can claim we have a closed loop supply chain. Okay, because we have the normal with the forward direction flow. Okay, from materials, semi manufactured products, and the finished products, right? And then these end of life products or damaged ones back to the upstream locations, right? Either to a distribution center, and then maybe the distribution center can do some simple repairment. Okay? Or if they cannot do this, maybe they send further upstream to the manufacturer. Okay? Because the manufacturer, they have the skills, so they have the knowledge to further repairment or to use of these damaged products or defective products. Okay? So when materials move up to the supply chain, okay, in the production, okay, usually it's not so easy, okay, because most of the supply chains are designed for the one-way direction flow, one-way flow, okay, from the upstream to downstream. Right? So once they have to handle this kind of backflow. They don't have proper knowledge to handle this, or they don't know where to send these items to, right? Immediate upstream location or even upstream. So sometimes there are difficulties. Okay, so it needs to be carefully designed. Okay, we still can handle this reverse flow very properly. So some others, the research and tell us that if we can very carefully design these activities, then of course we can have very positive consequence. Okay. Otherwise, of course, we might suffer from bad consequences. Okay. For the online retail sales, okay, about 5.6% average return rate. So that means about every 100 purchases, okay, there are 5 to 6 return, okay, from the consumers. So the problem exists. So we need to take care of this backflow, okay, from the consumers back to the seller, okay. And also the cost of processing such a return is much expensive than normal outbound shipment, normal direction, okay. Could be 2 to 3 times more expensive, okay. And also the average cost of processing per return for those items purchased on the internet is 30 to 35. Well, this is very expensive, right? If this is in terms of the US dollars, then in terms of the NT dollars will be near $1,000, quite a lot, right? So we need to be very careful, okay, to see if we can design a very good reverse logistics to save the money. Okay, that's these figures tell us that the phenomenon do exist, and we need to carefully design the reverse logistics activities. And these two scholars identify in their articles that if the product flow in the reverse direction can be well managed, then it can generate profits, okay, and customer satisfactions. Okay. So that means we have to really consider the design of this reverse logistic activities. Okay. And this well-designed reverse logistics can also be a differentiator between you and your competitor. Okay, maybe this will become a very important competitive advantage. Okay, for you. Okay, that means you can do this very efficiently compared to your competitors. Right? You can reduce cost and at the same time increase satisfaction of your customers. So this is the findings of their research. So the very last slide about the green product design. Okay, the previous slides we talk about the logistics operations, right? The supply chains activities. Okay, now here is the product design. Okay, product design, of course, also a very important activities, right? So, just like the supply chain design, okay, at the design stage, okay, we can make contribution to the environment. The similar thinking can be applied to the product design. Okay, so when we do the product design, we can try to consider all these green issues, right? Whether or not we can use a more proper materials, right? That means we can use some materials that is more environmentally friendly. Okay, we use more this kind of materials. Okay, then we can reduce the damages to the environment later on when we produce the products we send the products to the consumers. Right? So this symbol, right? Symbol triple R's, right? Reduce, reuse, and recycle, right? Reduce the waste, right? Reuse those items that maybe end up their usage life. Okay, recycle. Okay? We use the materials which can be recycled. It can be easily. It can be properly disposed. Okay, so we see that many organizations in the world, okay, in different continents or different nations, right, require their manufacturers, their firms, to implement this philosophy, right? Try to do this triple R's as much as they can. The old time we say cradle to grave, right? We produce goods from purchasing materials in the beginning. Then step by step we make the final products, the finished products, right? But what is the next step, right? Previous time we don't think too much about the usage of the products after the end of their product life. Okay, but nowadays we consider to collect these items back from the consumers, right? Then we can reuse these parts or components of these items, these products, right? So it becomes cradle to reincarnation. We let these live products reborn. Then their parts are taken away and then use these usable parts to make something else. So from cradle to reincarnation. Okay. Only if you have very good design in the beginning you can do this. Otherwise, if you are not using the proper material, then you don't have the chance to do this, right? So the product design is very important. You can add this green component, okay, in the design. Okay. So the design stage, you can make contributions. Okay, you can make the most contributions. Okay. Otherwise, in the later on stage, the production stage, manufacturing stage, or even distribution stage, the contribution, you can still have contributions, right? But compared to this stage, of course, that's not so big. Okay. So we have to design the product, okay, in the beginning. We have to well design our supply chain system in the beginning. Okay. Only through the very careful design at these design stages, right, that we can make great contributions to the environmental protection. Okay. So that's the final slide for this unit. Okay.